If the next panelist who is standing at the back of the room chatting would like to start walking down, that would be great. We've been hearing all day how hard aircraft management is, and Bill Paparella, after lunch, was saying it was such a difficult industry. So we're delighted to have FlyHouse, who are coming into the market. Saran and Jack don't need any introduction, but we're also more excited to have Grant Johnson from Benevolent Capital up here. For those of you who don't, for those of you who follow soccer, which I believe is what you guys call football, there's a team called Ipswich Town, which is in the same league as Richmond AFC. How are you? Nice to meet you. So, Jack, take us through FlyHouse for people who don't know it, and then we're going to ask Grant why he's chosen to invest in it.
Test. Oh, hey, listen, we just appreciate you inviting us up here, so appreciate it. What is FlyHouse? FlyHouse is a fleet management company that manages 9 airplanes today, and we also have an app that's direct to consumer, where we have about 1,500 airplanes on the platform.
But the app's not live yet, is it?
The app's in soft launch.
So someone could sit here now, download it, book a flight?
Absolutely.
And you'll guarantee it within 3 minutes?
In 3 minutes.
Okay, if anyone wants to try that, now's a great time, and you can stand up. And why did you join FlyHouse, Jack?
The partnership group is amazing. Sandy Michaelman, for those of you who don't know, chairs a law firm and was part of another roll-up of an aviation company that did a massive deal. But the technology piece was something that was exciting. I didn't have that in a previous life. And so, yeah, I'm just excited to be here.
And Saran, what attracted you?
Well, the first part was when Jack Lambert calls you and says, hey, I need you to think about this. And it's something you think about, right? And I've gotten calls from other people like Thomas Florin in the past. But if he calls, you got to think about it. I was going through like a really bad dose of founder syndrome with my previous company. And I just needed to shake it up a bit. And, you know, this seemed like a really interesting project where it's high trajectory, high energy, forward thinking. And to do what I do, what I've been doing for the last 25 years, but add technology to it was something that was incredibly appealing to me.
Okay, we've done FlyHouse. Grant, do you want to explain Benevolent Capital?
Sure, thank you. Thank you for having me. Benevolent Capital is a family office, really, that goes back over 20 years ago with my identical twin brother, Brett Johnson. And we really just started from an investment perspective in investing things that we were rabidly passionate about. So that's how we ended up investing in Ipswich Town and then Rhode Island Football Club and Phoenix Rising, the Arizona-based USL soccer team. And then from a venture and private equity perspective, about 4 years ago, we were approached with the opportunity to invest in Aura Ring. And we're obsessive users of Aura Ring. You can see it on my hand. My twin brother and I, he lives in California, I live in Tennessee. We send our sleep scores to each other every morning. We joke that at this point in our lives as identical twins, we're competitive about who gets more sleep. But that investment started off our venture portfolio, which over the last 4 years is now approaching close to $100 million of invested capital. And what we look for are unique and disruptive companies or platforms. The starting point is it has to be something that we're rabidly passionate about and that we love ourselves. And I call it the word of mouth portfolio. And so we always represent with whatever we're investing in, typically the largest check. But what we've done is the uniqueness of the Benevolent Capital portfolio is that when we find something that we love, we kind of view it as we curate a really unique opportunity. So with FlyHouse, we go back with Sandy Michaelman over 20 years through our involvement collectively in YPO. And just knowing Sandy and his prolific success and background, we were just interested in pretty much anything he wants to do. But then when he explained FlyHouse to us, we said, please, can we have an allocation? And he said, well, I'm not really looking to raise more money. He said, well, let us explain how benevolent works. And what we describe is, well, you deal with one investor, which is primarily me, and then I deal with, depending on the situation, 80 investors or more. And the way we structure the investment opportunities is we create an exclusive SPV for, in this case, FlyHouse, and then the benevolent approach, and we really take our name seriously, meaning to do well, win-win, is we don't charge any management fees if you invest with us or any of our opportunities, so no management fees. We feel like they're cross purposes for potential returns. If we're clipping management fees every year, we don't have an incentive for an exit. And then we also say, look, if we don't double your money, if you don't make a double with this investment, we don't make a nickel. But anything above the double, it's a 70-30 split, 70% to you, 30% to us. So we like to say, yes, we do extremely well, but only after you've done well. And then the final thing about everything I just described is, as we describe, is we're not looking for a double. If we only got a double, something went wrong. We're really looking for extremely disruptive opportunities and investments that hopefully make the proverbial dent in the universe. And as we said, if it also doesn't resonate with our investors, this goes back to the word of mouth portfolio, where we want our investors, hopefully 80, 100, whatever the number ends up being, as the ultimate evangelists and word of mouth and fire in the belly, and they're talking to someone saying, hey, you got to check out FlyHouse. You got to get the app. Like, what are you thinking? Or you got to get an Oura Ring. So I know I was just very long-winded, but I hope that gives some perspective.
I've also never seen anyone with 2 Oura Rings.
It does look that way, I know. Maybe that's just part of my sales pitch. It's like, it's so great you need 2 of them.
Jack, Saran, aircraft management is a tough business. You guys haven't just got to build a aircraft management company. You've got to make a dent in the universe. Is that a lot of pressure?
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure. But I think the ability to do something a little bit different, we don't, like Grant says, he doesn't charge management fees. We don't either. We do take revenue off the top on an aircraft that charters, but we have different deals, and we realize that every deal is different. And so you've got to be able to tailor those deals to the customer you're dealing with.
What I'm most excited about with, being at FlyHouse was get to do everything I've done for the last 25 years, but I've got this tech team behind me now that can really depict what we want to deploy in terms of aircraft management. And we've heard this today, at least by 3 people, like, this is a really difficult business, right? So why is it a difficult business? Is because you have a customer, you have to set expectation, you have to then deliver that expectation, and then the premise is that they may not want to pay for it. Right. So how could we take those pain points and use technology and make that more tangible with an intangible service that aircraft management is? And that's been, for me, like the most exciting part on our customer-facing app, but also the back end of our customer-facing app that's going to be deploying next year is, how we manage people's assets using technology, metrics, benchmarking, and things like that, where now it doesn't become so, subjective when you're going over the asset.
And Grant, you're more attracted to the app side of the business than you are to the aircraft management side, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so I heard, I was fortunate, I was at a big event last week in Dubai, and Mr. Wonderful of Shark Tank fame was speaking to everybody, and he was saying, if you can't tell your story in 90 seconds, there's something wrong. And I said, well, how about 3 seconds? FlyHouse is Uber for private jets. Right? That's it.
The trouble is, everyone in this room has heard that.
Yes.
several
I have to
times
admit,
before.
my audience is not this room, quite honestly. So, from that perspective, I definitely understand where you're coming from. But to go to your point, yes, for us, it's about the disruptive nature of, hey, within 3 minutes of downloading the app, you put in your coordinates, and through this reverse auction process and technology, you get served up, 10 compelling quotes at the lowest prices possible in 5 different jet categories. So,
And to be fair, we haven't had Uber for private jets for a few years now, so I'm being harsh. Do you want to explain the reverse auction quickly, Jack? Or Saran?
The reverse auction in our app was something that we developed because at the end of the day, the biggest issue with private aviation is to get real-time availability over a larger geographic area, given the amount of variables that go into quoting a trip. So there's been apps before that, give you a quote. Maybe it's a set price that you do or something like that, but doing real-time availability where a customer can choose a very specific tail was a challenge for us. And I think using technologies and connectivity into APIs and things like that, we've solved that.
Okay. Ron, have you started syndicating your investment yet?
yeah, so exactly what we hope for, call it the power of the crowd, is we're only as good as the unique opportunities that we present to our extensive investor base, which is over 600 investors around the world and counting, is where our initial allocation and investment into FlyHouse was for $10 million, and the demand was so strong that we've gone back and said, can we have 15? And Sandy said yes, and now thanks to my trip last week in Dubai with Sandy, we're now asking for 20 million, and looks like the answer is yes, and that's exactly what we want, right? Is where the crowd buy-in is extremely strong, and we also look for that. Also, the companies that we invest in, that their willingness to take the money. But we get nervous where we're offering money and they say no, thank you. So we want that, hopefully that win-win.
And that's because you're a venture investor. You're not looking for if you get a 2-time return, you're unhappy.
Well, it's also part of, I guess, I have a philosophy. This goes back to 30 years of banking and corporate finance from the 1990s at Montgomery Securities. But basically my premise is if someone's willing to offer you money, the answer should be yes, right? So we get worried if we're willing to offer somebody money and the answer is no.
Do you, what's your average investor like?
Super high net worth accredited investor with a diverse, eclectic portfolio like us that's looking for non-correlated returns. It's
And pretty much all of them will be private jet customers.
that is probably the big thing that helped convince Sandy was that our investors are exactly the type of clients and customers that FlyHouse is looking for.
And Jack, how many of them have you signed up so far?
How many have signed up what?
Of the investors and benevolence investors, have you got flying with you so far?
Oh, flying? Well, the original investors was friends of the family. So we had 25 out of the 25, 20 are flying private.
But
Three of them have airplanes.
As the investors are rolling in, we're keeping these guys busy between the app and the private client group because they have the high-touch private client group that, for someone that doesn't want to necessarily mess with the app or they want to see if it can do better.
How big do you think FlyHouse will be in 5 years, Grant? And then I'm going to ask Jack.
So I always look at things as the floor and the ceiling. So my belief is if they do what I think they can do in the years to come, and they do it on a global scale, I will be disappointed if this isn't worth $2 to $3 billion on the low.
In 5 years' time?
Yeah.
Wow.
But again, I can my belief is that, again, it's always about execution and performance, but this is a disruptive asset-light model with phenomenal margins. And like Uber and Airbnb, if you do it properly, I think there'll be enormous global players that will be banging down the door saying that they want to own something as disruptive as this.
Saran, Jack, how big will you guys be in 5 years?
Well, that's a great question, but I think aircraft management is not easy. Disrupting is not easy. But for us, we've spent the better part of 18 months building the right team. And so I think from that standpoint, getting those things in line, we always say we're taking care of the house. Getting that in line, that's just going to propel us to the future. So we hope it's, north of 3. We hope it's 10, but, we'll sell at 5.
For me, it's the team, like Jack said. And for me, the team is not just the team that Jack and I get to build here. It's the team around us, Grant and Brett included. The energy levels that are around us to catapult this thing and to do the trajectory that we want to do. Now, the investment in sports teams is interesting. We run FlyHouse very much like a sports team, with that kind of culture, with that kind of specificity and involvement in doing things and tactically as well. So, for me, it's been really good to have Benevolent come in, and it's just the energy that we have now and the reach that they bring to us with all the investors and potential flyers, potential buyers of airplanes and stuff like that. So.
Here's a question from the audience. How do you address the challenges we hear from aircraft owners with other management companies, communication, maintenance oversight, and accounting?
Yeah, so...
I'm beginning to think this is one of your colleagues who's asked this question. It's such a softball.
I think this is the key to aircraft management and why it's so difficult, right? I think number one, the customers are skeptical by nature, right? They've been with other companies. They have these, 300-page statements. They don't know what to make of it and things like that. And then they're like, oh, we must be rich. We own an airplane, right? And they get these bills. Communication is a big part of it too, because a lot of them want to be involved in their airplane. They're not so much, hey, you just give me the whiskey and I'll show up kind of thing. They really want to be involved in every decision and everything like that, and communicating that is a task. And then obviously, right now, this is a big deal, it's maintenance oversight. It used to be I'd go in for an inspection and I expect what I get out of it, in terms of downtime and then cost. And now it's 3 times the downtime. It's not just double the cost for inspections and things like that. But how do you communicate all that? And I think we can use technology to provide that transparency, take away the fog of, owner statements that are, that might have backup, might not have backup. If they can have transparency and they can self-serve themselves, is what I believe the key to winning in aircraft management and making it less difficult.
Someone else has said, what makes you unique?
I would say the technology part of it.
Well, the people, obviously, goes without saying, but the technology piece is hands down. Seeing that stuff in real time. We always talk about, these management statements are like the Da Vinci Code. So, if you can solve that and then do that stuff in real time through the technology, it'll certainly make it better.
And Paula, who's trying to book a flight now, is asking, why are you not on the Android phone?
It's coming soon.
I think what we wanted to do, so Jack calls it the solution tour, right? We wanted to launch the app, and we wanted to spend a good, 4 months now, just shaking out the bugs, because that's really what, in our business, has killed technology. And now that I know a little bit more about what it takes to get into an app store, right, I think we wanted to go with the 59% of users first, and we'll probably around January get in the Android store.
You're both very experienced in the industry. Have you found building an app harder than you thought you would have done 18 months ago?
I come from BlackBerry. I didn't know anything about an app, right? I mean, just BlackBerry. Yeah, I mean, it's a whole different animal. I mean, I think it's, we just switched from QuickBooks to Microsoft Dynamics. I'm blown away by what Dynamics can do, and you throw in all the APIs, and I thought API was an airport. It's like, I had no idea what that meant. But seeing how it can work in real time, and it's all about having a vision. And I think, being a part of something that's disrupting, having that vision, but then having a tech team behind you that can build what you're saying, man, that just makes all the difference.
Grant, do you think you're sleeping better than these guys?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I have the easy part. I
don't have an Aura ring, by the way.
If I had an Aura ring, it wouldn't register a whole lot of data in terms of my sleep cycle. Just saying.
I'm guessing that you wouldn't look at doing another investment in this sector. This is your...
That's a great question because we have two investments in the non-alcoholic beer space. We have Athletic Brewing, and then when Keurig Dr. Pepper bought 10% of them, we said, well, effectively they're off the board in a positive way. Right? Keurig's not going to let Diageo buy them. And then we were approached by another brand called Best Day Brewing, and I blew the founder off. I said, no, we already have it. And then he was persistent, and I said, all right, send me samples, because unless they're amazing, it's a pass. And I tried them, and I have to say, I felt they were better than Athletic, and I called up my twin brother on a Saturday, because normally we leave each other alone on weekends, and I said, my exact words are, we are idiots if we pass on this thing because of Athletic. So we ended up investing in Best Day Brewing, and that also goes to our atypical approach. We're not a typical fund per se that might have more guardrails along something. We're opportunistic, and we're very glad we did that. And so, long-winded way of saying, I wouldn't rule it out. I would find it unlikely, but
something non-competitive, something.
So hopefully, if anything, it's something complementary and additive in some ways, and or it's at very different phases and stages. We invested in Athletic 4 years ago, and we invested in Best Day 2 years ago. So perhaps timing.
And you've said that you only like investing in fun word-of-mouth investments.
Yes.
Are you enjoying business aviation?
Has to be there. If that's not there, it's an easy pass.
And is business aviation living up to that?
Absolutely. I mean, it's aspirational, right? Who doesn't want to fly private? In fact, what we really talk about is the point of hopefully superior returns is having more control over one's time, right? And there's nothing like that aviation provides, right? Is time, control over your time.
And finally, you invested in Ipswich Town a couple of years ago. You've got them promoted to the top level of English football.
Cinderella story, back-to-back promotions, truly historic.
You finally had your first victory.
Yes.
After a few months.
I was on the flight from Dubai with my phone getting the updates, and
The perfect opponent to win against, by the way.
Tottenham.
Let me just say
Tottenham.
that.
And
Yes.
no regrets about your investment in football, English football.
None at all. But again, it's because it's experiential, and it's hopefully something that is a lot of fun while also doing well.
And when will FlyHouse be sponsoring?
Great question. It's a work in progress, and we certainly feel like that's going to happen.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank
that
you.
was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Cheers, Jack.